There seems to be a lot of information and lots of services to help parents who have children with developmental disabilities. But what about when those kids become adults? What are the resources for them and for the parents and the caregivers? Well, Dr. Michael Sowell is a neurology professor, among other things, at the University of Louisville, and he's with Karen Napolili, who's helping organize a conference of caring for adults with intellectual disabilities. Karen, Mike, welcome. Good to see you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, well, let's go right off the top. Tell folks about the conference. Then we'll talk about some of the issues involving folks who are trying to care for adults with disabilities. Why don't you talk a little bit about this conference that's coming up?
Certainly. So the conference is November the 12th, which is a Saturday. It's a coordinated effort between the University of Louisville Department of Neurology and the Lee Specialty Clinic and the University of Louisville School of Dentistry. So the School of Medicine, the School of Dentistry, but also the Lee Specialty Clinic. And it's interdisciplinary care of adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities. So intellectual and developmental disabilities are conditions that have onset in childhood or from birth, but persist throughout the lifetime. And so the notion is that these are individuals who merit a coordinated effort of different providers, different healthcare providers. So it's encompasses neurology, internal medicine, dentistry, psychiatry, psychology, physical therapy, speech therapy, and occupational
You got everybody.
therapy.
Everybody in the medical field's involved in this
Pretty
conference,
much.
right? So
Pretty
this
much.
is November 12th, and anybody can show up, right? So if I'm a parent who has a adult child, say a 25-year-old son, like Barbara has here, right? Or Karen has. You have a son
33-year-old.
33-year-old. Okay.
Yes.
This is Karen Napolili, who works at UofL, but also has a son with a disability, and he's 33 years old. So somebody like her can come from the outside to this conference and learn what services are available, perhaps where to get into the system, and how to care for that person better. Is that the idea?
That's correct. So, one of the most dire times is the transition of healthcare from the pediatric age group to the adult age group, which typically occurs around 18 to 21 years of age. And the notion is that parents and or caregivers of these individuals have assembled a group of providers, typically over years, to care for the individualized needs of these persons. And then this is a coordinated effort to look at developmental medicine, kind of an emerging specialty to provide care for these individuals. And from a parent and caregiver perspective, one can attend the conference and kind of become oriented to the lay of the land. Who are the providers? Where do they get care?
Who are the go-to people for
Who are the
me?
go-to people? That's right.
Well, Karen, what kind of problems and obstacles have you overcome? I mean, you're in the medical field. You work at UofL. You probably have a better idea of where to go than the average person. But what are the difficulties that you or folks in your similar position have had trying to find care and the right folks for your son?
Well, Mark, my son is now 33 years old, and things have settled down a little bit. However, when he was 21, he aged out of the Jefferson County public school system, which really had a medical component to it. We had the school nurse, we had our therapists there, and they were a big part of our family's lives for many, many years. And then it was over, and at 21, I needed to find a new primary care physician, which I thought I would just use ours or call somebody, and they would accept Robbie, and they'd want Robbie because he's such a great kid.
And what disability does he have?
Robbie has something called polymicrogyria, which means he is total care. He cannot, he's not ambulatory, can't feed himself.
So he's in a wheelchair.
He's in a wheelchair.
Can't feed himself.
No,
Can he speak?
Cannot speak.
Okay.
He's the greatest kid ever, but he's just like the baby we brought home from the hospital.
Right.
Okay. He's a wonderful kid.
Okay. So he ages out of Jefferson County schools. You don't have that
Don't have
care
that,
handy.
yeah.
So
Yes.
what do you do?
So you look for a primary care physician, and I called primary care physician after primary care physician, and they all told me they were not accepting new patients. But it was usually when I would tell them a little bit about the day-to-day struggles that we have with Robbie's high intense needs that they would tell me they weren't accepting new patients. So I was trying to believe they really weren't. And to this day, I do not know if they really weren't accepting new patients. And, we've talked with other parents. And now our guess is that there were a couple of reasons that physicians are just like the rest of us. They have fears, they have vulnerabilities, and they might have been afraid of making a medical mistake. Or
taking on a tough case. Your son would be a tough case, obviously.
He is. And you know, he, like a lot of individuals who have developmental disabilities that are severe, have difficulty getting private insurance, so we have Medicaid for our Robbie. And so there's going to be a lot of work involved to organize Robbie's care at a very probably a low reimbursement rate. So that could be another difficulty. And I still to this day don't know why we had so much trouble, but I do know that we had to spend a lot of time in urgent care clinics and in emergency rooms.
So where are you now? So he's 33 now.
Yes.
So it's been 12 years, I guess, since he aged out of JCPS.
Yes.
So where are you now with your care, and how does that compare to what other families in similar circumstances are going through?
Mark, we are blessed. We are part of the Cedar Lake family. He
Familiar
now
with
has
it.
a spot at Cedar Lake Lodge. And physicians come to us. But there was that time when we were on the waiting list, as many people who are probably listening to this broadcast are now, that we weren't a part of that. And we had to look for care, and it just was not there. So now we're in a much better place, but only because we're a part of a larger institution that has many residents, so they can come there and provide the care.
So you're helping put together this symposium, right?
That is it, yes. And I believe this conference is going to be a great two-way street, because not only will physicians be there learning from other physicians about this wonderful emerging field called developmental medicine, but we want parents and caregivers to be there also, because as physicians are there on that Saturday, instead of being in their busy clinical mode, they're going to be in a learning mode. And I believe they have a lot that they can learn from us. And then in a perfect world, I'm just hoping that somewhere out in this listening audience, that there would be a lot of doctors' offices that they would just choose someone from their office on staff and say, you know, we're going to choose you as our champion for persons with developmental and intellectual disabilities for this office. We want you to go to this conference, learn all you can, bring that information back to us, and we are ready to go ahead and accept one patient in our office that has these difficulties, and we'll work it out as a team with their family and caregivers so that we can do the right thing by all the patients with special needs.
Go ahead, Dr. Sowell.
So I think with developmental medicine as an emerging specialty, I think University of Louisville is going to be a leader in this area, and many physicians may be willing to provide care for adults with intellectual and developmental disabilities, but they don't necessarily have the educational resources or the other supports that can be provided by a more comprehensive approach. And so our idea with having this conference is kind of a start, if you will, for getting this specialty going, and then, you know, eventually having a training pathway in developmental medicine where physicians can extend their training in this specific area, because there are certainly advances in science in a number of ways. Genetics, there's now enzyme replacement therapies, there's newer treatments for seizure disorders, there are a variety of different newer techniques and including rehabilitation that can result in improved quality of life. And I think coordinating that care under the umbrella of developmental medicine is the way to go.
So this is a burgeoning field of dealing with adults with developmental disabilities, it sounds like, and there seems to be more interest in it, at least on the part of the University of Louisville. So what are the numbers out there, or do we know what the numbers are in terms of the number of families that are trying to help their adults with developmental disabilities, either in Louisville, the state of Kentucky? I mean, is it getting a lot more, or are we detecting more? I sense there's more, but I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's increasing, and it's difficult numbers to get a hold of. It's not necessarily tracked in a systematic fashion, and that's one thing that I think under a university setting that we could do. But you know, seizures, for example, affect approximately 1% of the population has epilepsy, just so that one condition alone. But then you add upon that potentially neurodevelopmental malformations of the brain, spasticity, cerebral palsy, sometimes associated
Mental retardation, autism, all those things fall in that spectrum, don't they?
That's right.
Okay, so you're talking a huge chunk of the population, I'm thinking here.
Significant portion of the population,
Okay.
yes.
All right. Well, let's talk one more time about the conference. Give us the date, time, who's going to be there, and who's invited before we wrap this up.
So it's November the 12th, which is a Saturday, starting at 8 a.m., and there will be specialists in all areas who are the speakers. The initial 4 talks will be straight didactic talks, and then there will be breakout sessions, including...
What are didactic talks? I don't know what that means.
I'm sorry, a lecture.
Oh, lecture. Okay, thank you. I'm just a journalism major.
And then there will be breakout sessions, which will be on a more informal, interactive basis to then interact with the various providers.
So parents and
various
doctors
areas.
will have a chance to get together and say, hey, my son or my daughter has this disability. You're Dr. So-and-so. Can you help us or steer us in the right direction? They'll have that opportunity.
Exactly.
And this is where? Where is this going to be held?
This is in B115 at the School of Medicine.
So it's at the School of Medicine. Okay.
And
have you got a phone number or something or a web page?
We do. If anybody is
This
interested
is Karen
in coming.
Napalili, by the way. Go
If
ahead.
anyone is interested in coming, I did want to mention it is free also. And the phone number is 852-5329. And another thing that we've made provisions for, which is unusual at a conference, but we need an area for personal care. A lot of our families that come are not able to attend events because there aren't restroom facilities for their loved ones. So we have that taken care of, and we would love to have all the parents, guardians, caregivers that would like to attend.
All right, Karen Napalili and Dr. Michael Sowell from the University of Louisville, thank you very much. Good luck with the conference.